Hello. The clock strikes 2:30 a.m. in a secluded villa in Hawaii. The piercing scream of a young woman shatters the night's silence. Only a few minutes later, a terrible event begins to unfold. Evidence of a violent struggle slowly emerges from beneath a bedroom door, seeping into the hallway and spreading. At the same time, in a simple rented room, a female tenant is curled up in a corner, her whole body trembling uncontrollably. She is so terrified that she clamps her hands over her mouth, not daring to make a sound. She is the sole survivor of this horrific incident, the family of 5 living with her, including a child of just 10 years old, did not escape the tragedy. The scene was so profoundly disturbing that even the most seasoned forensic experts, accustomed to grim sights, found it difficult to process. Stranger still, the perpetrator had left no trace, appearing and disappearing like a phantom. The case seemed destined to become another unsolved mystery. That is, until an offhand comment made by one of the victims revealed an unthinkable twist that no one saw coming. So, what really happened that year next? Join us as we turn back the clock to 2024 to uncover the grim truth of that fateful night. Manoa. It is a name that evokes images of paradise, an affluent residential area nestled in a lush, green valley within the capital city of Honolulu, Hawaii. Here, the canopy of trees provides shade year-round. The air is fresh and serene. The sun is generous. And the climate is so mild it feels like an eternal spring. Residents strolling along the tree-lined streets could be forgiven for thinking they had stepped into a magnificent tropical painting. In 2024, the travel insurance company Berkshire Hathaway named Honolulu the safest tourist city in the world, encouraging visitors to explore and enjoy its wonders with complete peace of mind. And yet, it is here, in this place deemed an absolute sanctuary, that our tragic story begins. At 362 Waloa Street in Manoa stood a detached villa valued at approximately 1.8 million US dollars, with a building area of around 700 square meters. Its exterior was a study in minimalist design, a dominant white palette that looked elegant, graceful, and pure. No one could have ever imagined that in the span of a single night. This place would be transformed into a living hell, a site of unimaginable suffering and brutality. On the morning of March 10, 2024, at exactly 8:34 a.m., the police received an emergency call. A woman named An, her voice tight with tension, reported, "I'm at the house at number 362. I hear arguing and screaming. Please, you have to come right away." Police forces were dispatched immediately, arriving at the scene within minutes. However, they were met with a house that was securely locked, eerily quiet, showing no signs of disturbance. The officers knocked, but there was no answer. A search of the perimeter revealed nothing, and the woman who had made the report was nowhere to be found. They questioned the neighbors, asking if they had heard anything unusual, but all of them replied that they had not. Frustrated, the police had no choice but to temporarily withdraw. They couldn't help but wonder if they had been the victims of an early morning prank call. But a short time after they left, An called again at 9:15 a.m. The police returned to the scene. This time, they saw the caller, An herself, standing in front of the house at number 362, pacing back and forth with an air of profound anxiety. The moment she saw the police cruisers, she rushed towards them. "Officers," she began. "I'm a tenant here. The homeowner is Pariota. He's 46. Early yesterday morning, around 2 o'clock. I heard screaming. I was so scared. I locked my door and hid inside. I didn't dare come out." She continued, her voice trembling slightly, when the sound stopped. "I thought everything was okay, so I went to sleep. But this morning, when I was getting ready to leave, I saw something on the floor in the hallway. That's when I called you. The first time you came, I was too terrified to open the main door. This time, I had to climb out of my window to get outside." Her account instantly put the officers on high alert. They approached the front door, calling out the homeowner's name, Pariota, but the house remained shrouded in an unnerving silence. Just then, one officer, peering through a window, caught a glimpse of something on the floor inside a shape that looked disturbingly like a person lying in the hallway. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, They made a tactical decision to breach the entrance. With a loud crash, the door flew open, and a heavy, metallic smell, thick and overwhelming, rushed out to meet them. The scene inside the house was one of unimaginable horror. A male individual lay in the middle of the hallway. The evidence of a violent struggle was all around him. He still held a kitchen knife in his right hand, a silent testament to a final, desperate confrontation. A quick identification confirmed the deceased was the homeowner, 46-year-old Periota. The police immediately secured the premises, cordoning off the area and calling for a full forensic team and additional officers. What they would discover next would only deepen the horror. In the first bedroom, they found Periota's eldest daughter, 17-year-old Sakurako. The scene told a story of a fierce struggle. In the second bedroom, his 12-year-old son, Orion, was found on his bed. His chest bore the marks of a fatal encounter. In the master bedroom, the tragedy reached its devastating conclusion. The youngest daughter, 10-year-old Lana, and the homeowner's wife, 48-year-old Naoko, were also found. They lay next to the bed, their bodies marked by the same terrible violence. An entire family of 5, gone. Not a single one had been spared. All had met their end in a brutal and merciless fashion. The residential area, once known for its safety and tranquility, was plunged into a nightmarish darkness overnight. As news of the incident spread, the peaceful community erupted in a state of shock and disbelief. Neighbors expressed their horror and grief, a palpable fear spreading through the community. People began to wonder if a killer was living among them, hidden in plain sight. They feared that they could be next. To prevent the situation from escalating, the police launched a full-scale investigation with utmost urgency. The preliminary forensic report estimated the time of the incident to be between 2:00 and 2:30 a.m. that same morning. All 5 victims had succumbed to injuries consistent with a bladed weapon. At the crime scene, the doors and windows were all intact, with no signs of forced entry. This suggested that the perpetrator was likely someone known to the family, someone who could have easily entered the house. But the perplexing detail was that none of the neighbors had heard any screams or sounds of a struggle. Throughout the entire street, only An, the tenant, had reported hearing anything. This detail raised a significant red flag for the investigators. If she was able to hear the screams and call the police, perhaps the tragedy could have been averted. Why did she wait until the following morning to report it? Was she trying to buy time for the perpetrator? Or could she, in fact, be the perpetrator herself, faced with the detective's pointed questions? An was a mixture of frustration and indignation. She explained, "Yes, I heard something, but I believe in minding my own business. Besides, the sound was muffled. I couldn't make out any words. I just assumed it was a typical family argument. I never imagined someone had lost their life. I live alone. I wasn't about to go investigating in the middle of the night. If I had called the police and it turned out to be nothing, I might have bothered my landlord, and they could have asked me to leave. Where would I go then, upon reflection?" Her explanation was not without logic, considering it would be nearly impossible for a single woman to carry out such an extensive and violent act alone. The police temporarily ruled her out as a primary suspect, but this only led them into a deeper, more confounding fog. The crime scene was unnervingly clean of forensic evidence. No foreign fingerprints, no footprints. Not even a single stray hair was found. The assailant was like a ghost, vanishing without a trace after the act. Even more strangely, none of the family's valuables had been touched. Even the cash left in plain sight in the living room was undisturbed. The investigators concluded this was a meticulously planned and targeted attack, not a robbery gone wrong. While awaiting the detailed autopsy report, the police began to delve into the background and social connections of the Periota family, hoping to identify potential suspects. Periota, 46, was born and raised on the island of Kauai, Hawaii, known as the Garden Isle. It's a picturesque island, a dream destination for many. His childhood was as peaceful and beautiful as his island home. From a young age, he was known for being intelligent and kind, treating everyone with a gentle and mild-mannered demeanor. and he was deeply loved by his family. Although his academic performance was average, he was a serious and diligent worker with a strong sense of purpose. While other children his age dreamed of becoming astronauts or basketball stars, he had already set his goal one day. I'll open my own small shop and build my own career. His family recalled that Periota had never been in trouble. The only blemish on his record was a minor incident in 1997 when he was charged with trespassing. However, due to the minor nature of the offense and his otherwise good character, the case was eventually dismissed and faded into obscurity. As an adult, Periota had gone through a failed marriage, from which he had a daughter named Sachi. Despite the end of the marriage, Periota remained a constant presence in his daughter's life. He strived to be a good father. Later, Sachi would write on social media, "Dad is the guiding light of my life." Her words made it clear how irreplaceable he was in her heart. Later, he met his current wife, Naoko, 48, a gentle woman who was deeply devoted to her family. They were compatible, their life together was harmonious, and they soon married, having 3 children and forming a family of 5, to provide a better life for them. Periota worked tirelessly to build his career. He opened a chiropractic clinic in Honolulu and hired 4 employees. Thanks to his skilled technique and thoughtful service, the clinic's business flourished. It gained an excellent reputation, with a steady stream of loyal clients. Periota was busy every day, from morning till night, often working through weekends without a break. His wife, Naoko, would help with the bookkeeping in her spare time. Through their joint efforts, the clinic generated a good income, and their lives gradually became more comfortable. In 2013, Periota purchased the detached villa at 362 Waloa Street for $1.05 million and rented out their old house. From then on, the family of 5 lived a happy and stable life in this spacious 700 square meter home for 10 years, in the eyes of his neighbors. Periota was an enthusiastic and helpful man, always willing to lend a hand carrying things, fixing pipes, or providing chiropractic checkups for the elderly. He would even offer free massages to his neighbors. His employees praised him as a loving husband, a model spouse. He would wake up at 5 a.m. every morning to prepare breakfast and pack lunches for his children before heading to work, all so his wife could sleep in a little longer. Furthermore, his and Nyoko's 3 children were all outstanding. The eldest daughter, 17-year-old Sakurako, was a student at the prestigious Iolani School in Hawaii. She excelled academically, had a passion for cooking, and planned to pursue further studies at a university in Hawaii or on the mainland after graduation. In 2019, she and her mother participated in a local marathon together, sharing a particularly close bond. The 12-year-old son, Orion, was a vibrant and cheerful 6th grader. He was a talented athlete in his class, with a special love for basketball and surfing. Whenever his parents picked him up from school, his teachers would praise his excellent social skills and strong sense of responsibility. The youngest daughter, 10-year-old Lana, was the baby of the family, a petite and shy elementary school student. She loved soccer and practiced diligently, serving as a small but tenacious forward for her team. With these 3 children, the house was always full of life, laughter, and heartwarming moments. Moreover, the Periota family celebrated every holiday with great ceremony and festive spirit. At Christmas, they would adorn the house with sparkling string lights. For Halloween, they would meticulously create costumes for the children. Even a snowman would be dressed in a pumpkin-themed cape. It was a happy, friendly family, full of life. It was hard to imagine what kind of person could commit such a cruel act against them. During the investigation, the police also tried to find any enemies Periota might have had, but came up empty. The only plausible lead was a financial dispute related to a lease that Periota was involved in back in May 2021. At that time, he was sued by the landlord of his chiropractic clinic for unpaid rent. Although this dispute had caused considerable trouble and stress, a settlement was reached by December of the same year. Periota paid approximately $53,000, and the landlord withdrew the lawsuit. The matter was considered resolved amicably. In terms of motive, this incident was nowhere near significant enough to lead to such an extreme and violent outcome. With this lead going cold, The police investigation temporarily hit a wall. The identity and motive of the perpetrator remained shrouded in mystery, just when everyone felt hopeless. The investigators decided to visit the tenant currently living in Perioda's old house. During a routine inquiry, a surprising and crucial detail emerged. The tenant told the police that he had moved into the old house 5 years ago, but was recently forced to move out because Perioda had suddenly announced his intention to sell the property. The tenant remembered Perioda saying something filled with despair. "If I can't sell it, I really can't go on living." The police sensed something was wrong. Following this clue, they investigated Perioda's financial situation and discovered that he was indeed at his wit's end. As mentioned earlier, Perioda had been sued by his landlord for unpaid rent. In reality, that was just the tip of the iceberg of the financial crisis he was facing. The massage clinic he ran had been hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. The number of clients plummeted, and revenue dropped sharply. Not only was he unable to pay the rent, but he was also falling behind by $2,500 each month. He couldn't even afford to pay his employees' salaries. In 2020, he had applied for and received a government assistance loan of $26,930 to pay his 4 employees. But this was merely a temporary fix, completely insufficient to fill the ever-widening financial black hole. At the same time, he had to support 3 children, shouldering their educational expenses, car payments, and living costs. All these expenses added up to a significant sum. In May 2023, Perioda was pursued by the state government for long overdue taxes, eventually having to pay $7,915 for a family already financially drained. This was undoubtedly another heavy blow. In 2024, Perioda partnered with a real estate agency, planning to sell his 2 houses to alleviate the financial pressure. He also started working as a taxi driver on the side, and even sold his private car and a treadmill. In short, almost everything that could be converted into cash had been sold. However, these efforts were like trying to put out a forest fire with a cup of water. As his financial situation worsened, he became more withdrawn, avoiding social interactions and distancing himself from friends and family. A neighbor recalled that their house used to be beautifully decorated for every holiday. But since last year, there was nothing. The festive atmosphere had vanished. A few relatives also revealed that Perioda had a very high sense of self-esteem. Although we knew he was having financial problems, he always said, "This is my responsibility. I will find a way to solve it." The police, while sympathetic to Perioda's plight, initially saw all of this as the struggles of a middle-aged man facing life's difficulties, with no direct connection to a homicide, just as they were about to shift the direction of their investigation. An unguarded but deeply personal comment from one of Perioda's relatives sent a chill down everyone's spine. The relative said, "Perioda was under too much pressure. I think maybe he just didn't want to live anymore." This very sentence made the investigators shudder. A terrifying hypothesis began to form in their minds. They started to re-examine this gentle, kind, family-loving man. Was he hiding a completely different side? The police once again began to investigate Perioda himself, and the results were chilling. His phone's chat history revealed that he had tried to buy a handgun but failed. He had also made an ominous remark during a casual conversation with a neighbor, "I'd rather die than go to jail for not paying taxes." He had sent a text message to his wife, "Naoko, we have to end it. The children have to go with us because no one can take better care of them than I can. Let's go together." Naoko continuously tried to encourage her husband, suggesting they could move in with her parents. But Perioda replied that he had had enough, that he was too tired. Most frightening of all, Perioda had vaguely mentioned a plan to harm his family and burn the house down during a casual chat with a relative. These clues, pieced together one by one, formed a grim conclusion. This was not a case of a stranger breaking in. This was the extreme act of a man whose sanity had gradually crumbled, who was drowning in despair and saw no way out. The police had been reluctant to believe that the kind father who woke at 5:00 a.m. every morning to pack his children's lunches, the warm-hearted neighbor who gave free massages, the man his daughter called her guiding light, could be capable of leading his own wife and children to their deaths. However, the moment the final autopsy report was released, all mysteries were solved. Besides Perioda, The other four victims, Naoko, Sakurako, Orion, and Lana, all had clear defensive wounds on their hands. The only weapon found at the scene was the kitchen knife in Perioda's hand. The police concluded that after ruthlessly ending the lives of his wife and children, Perioda had turned the weapon on himself, completing a horrific act of family annihilation. Back in February, Perioda had texted his wife that they needed to plan it. He said he couldn't take it anymore and told her that their children needed to go with them because no one could care for them better than he could. This truth landed like a bombshell, immediately igniting public opinion in Hawaii. People could not accept that such a warm and loving family could end in such a brutal and tragic way. The media was filled with sensational headlines like "Cold-Blooded Father" and "Family Butcher," plunging the entire community into a state of shock to calm public sentiment. Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi issued a statement. "This tragic case has taken a complete family, and it pains me to my very core. This is a tragedy that defies common sense and has deeply shaken our community. We extend our deepest condolences to all relatives and friends and will walk with them through this time of loss." The tragedy of the Perioda family was the deadliest homicide event in Hawaii since the 1999 Xerox shooting in Honolulu, and only the second mass killing in Hawaii in nearly 25 years. Amidst this horrifying tragedy, public discourse also began to reevaluate Perioda's actions. While some expressed sympathy, believing he acted out of an emotional breakdown and helplessness, many others were outraged, pointing out that this was not a simple emotional breakdown, but the ultimate performance of narcissism, selfishness, and a desire for control. On one hand, he meticulously calculated ways to evade taxes to maintain a facade of a comfortable life. On the other hand, he desperately tried to maintain the image of a good father and a gentleman to uphold the perfect illusion others had of him. He did not truly love his family deeply. To him, his family members were merely decorative items, props to support his fraudulent, virtuous exterior. When everything was about to crumble, he did not hesitate to drag all the witnesses down into the abyss with him. After the incident, nearby residents spontaneously organized a memorial. A small shrine was set up in front of the Perioda house. Fresh flowers, wreaths, cards, and stuffed animals piled up, carrying countless expressions of grief among them. A small pink bear stood out, a tribute to little Lana. During the memorial vigil, many close friends of the family could not hold back their tears, sobbing uncontrollably. Perioda's ex-wife and eldest daughter are also quietly enduring this heart-wrenching pain. To help with the funeral arrangements and related legal matters for their family, they are trying to raise $100,000 to cover the expenses. The eldest daughter, Sachi, though she declined an on-camera interview, shared privately, "I will never understand why this nightmare happened, and I will never forget the precious moments I spent with my family." The case of the Perioda family is a heartbreaking tragedy, a stark warning about the invisible psychological pressures we face. The burdens of finance and mental health can push a person to the brink of utter despair. Behind the curtain of a seemingly perfect, warm, and laughter-filled family lay a deep abyss of suffering, where Perioda himself painted the most tragic ending for his loved ones and for himself. This story is not only profoundly shocking, but also forces us to look deeper into the hidden corners of the human soul, to reflect on the limits of endurance and the unforeseen consequences when pressure becomes unbearable. How many other Periodas are out there, silently struggling, hiding in unspeakable pain? And how can we, as a community, recognize and help these souls who are slowly sinking into darkness before another irreversible tragedy occurs? What are your thoughts and feelings about this case? Please share them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us today. If you found this story compelling, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more in-depth explorations of true crime cases. We'll see you next time.